All right. The other topics. This is the last video. All the other videos are there. It starts out with this screenshot, the blue performance exam. There's 3 questions. Of the 3 questions, you've got to talk on 2 of them. You can't talk. You can't write about 3 of them, and I'm supposed to figure out which one. It's just 2. So you got to decide the 2 topics. The 2 topics that you're going to write about. And then there are places where you need to write out in sentences, but I don't expect you to write out 6 minus 1. I've had students go SIX-MINUS-OE. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that extent. You can show examples. But guys, on the question that deals with slope, if you figured the slope of something, you would need to give me more information about the question than I'm asking kind of. So if you knew the slope of parallel lines are the same, you've got to bring that to the front and show me that you know that about parallel lines. Well, the topic I'm talking about now is the measures of central tendency. And so the measures of central tendency are the ones where you'll be given a set of data. When you're given those numbers, you have them listed out, and the first thing that you're going to need to find is the mean. Again, it would be beneficial to you to use the symbols for mean. Okay? And to find the mean, you add them together, divide by how many they are, and that's how you find mean. Symbol for mean is X at the line of it. Okay? The median. Median is the middle number. But the numbers have to be in order. You got to get them in order. You got to get them in ascending order. Really and truly, you can get them ascending or descending, but it makes most sense if they're in ascending order. Sometimes the median is referred to as Q2. The reason it's referred to as Q2 is because it's 50% of the data is to the left of the median, and 50% of the data points is to the right of the median. The lower quartile is Q1. Guys, all the lower quartile is the median of the middle number and the lowest number, the minimum. So that's Q1, lower quartile. Q3 is called the upper quartile. Okay? Right now, this idea right here is why we haven't received our EOCT test back. Guys, the EOCT y'all took the other day is the first time people in the state of Georgia have taken it. So they have to wait till they have enough students to have taken it, then not all school systems take it at the same time. So all the kids in Georgia that are taking that test, there hasn't been enough take it yet so they can get a good sample size of what the grades are going to look like. So they don't know who falls in the 70th percentile. Who falls in what? And once they get a big enough set of data, and the numbers should follow a little bell-shaped curve, when they do, they'll give a conversion for whatever your raw score was. You got 28 right, you got 40 right, you got 50 right. Well, they'll get a conversion for that, so all the numbers all out right there in a little bell-shaped curve. They haven't had enough people take it yet, so they haven't been able to create those conversions. Because look, if I were on Q3, if I were on the upper quartile, that means 70% of the data, 70% of the students in the school, all of them that took that test would be below you. That's what the median Q3, the upper quartile, gives you. It breaks your data up into 4 parts. From the lowest point to right here, that's 25% of the data. From Q2 to there, now you got 50% of the data going. To right there is 50% of the data. All the way over here to Q3 is 75% of the data. And so this box changes size based on how many numbers are in there. The more numbers are in there, the more numbers. If this was a set of data and they were all 26, but there were 126s in there, and there were only 2 26s, and that stuff moves that would be smashed right. Okay? The mode. Does there have to be a mode? No. Mode is most repeated, but the reason mode is most repeated is because there is a number that's most repeated. There could be more than one. There doesn't have to be one. Range. Highest minus lowest. Maximum minus minimum. Guys, not just subtract 2 numbers. If you just said subtract those numbers, you got to use words like maximum. When you talk about the slope, you got to use phrases like rise over run, like change in y. You got to use phrases when you talk about the distance formula, like you know that answer is positive. And you square it. When you do those kind of things, guys, I read that and I know you got the idea. And you guys that are like in that 70s range and trying to figure out a way, boy, what can I do to get, you can make 100 on this thing. Because you can. You know, you need to limit obviously you got to limit the adding and subtracting mistakes. But guys, I can read your writing and tell if you could just get by your little add and subtract, you know how to do it. Now, obviously, you couldn't make 100 if you're making those kind of mistakes. But if you make an add and subtracting mistake in one problem, you make an add and subtract, I can see that you know what you're doing. I don't have to take all those points off that we have to take off like in a regular test or something. And you want to write as much stuff. When I read it, I want to go. They know what to do. When you're writing yours, think about trying to teach somebody else how to do this. If the numbers changed, you'd still get it right. That's what I think about when I read them. If this student was doing this and the numbers changed, would they still get? Yeah, they would. Because they mention things like no slope. Underneath is undefined. So they know that's a vertical line. Those things you're right about. MAD, mean absolute deviation. Again, if you want an example of mean absolute deviation, we've got plenty of them in our past, but if you want to see a new one, I promise you, you go to YouTube, throw it in there, or Khan Academy, throw mean absolute deviation in there. He'll take a set of data, run through it, and find each one of them. Obviously, Q1 and Q3, and then IQR stands for interquartile range. So that just subtract them. Subtract Q3 and Q1. And you would expect which number will be bigger?
The Q3.
Yeah, Q3 will be the biggest number. MAD, mean absolute deviation. Find the mean, and then subtract each data point from the mean, add them up, and divide by how many. And don't forget about absolute value is absolute. So when you subtract the mean from each data point, even when you get a negative, you take the absolute value of it. And you take all those differences, add them together, divide by how many there are. It's called the mean absolute deviation.
Would we have to do that for statistics?
Yeah. The question that asks about that, you have to find, good question. Guys, it's not just, guys, if you talk about the question on mean measures of central tendency, I'm looking at the question. The questions are right here. If you answer that question, you have to do all of those things. Here's the question right here. If you have to find, if you answer the question about mean absolute deviation, or excuse me, about measures of central tendency, you have to do all of those topics over there. All of them. Or on that question. Now, what if you don't like the question? Don't answer that. Answer one. The other two. There's 3. You pick 2. There's 3 questions. You pick